Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Mattias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the REI Agent. This is Mattias here. I wanted to talk briefly about something that came up just a small in this conversation here with Kim. We had a really short conversation about, is this the right time, in reference to agents getting into the market, into the business, that is. And I think that's a really interesting question people ask themselves a lot. And I think that usually the answer is no. And that can be for a lot of different things. It could be for buying a house. It could be for getting into the real estate business to take the next step in any kind of, business entrepreneurship. Me and Kim both started off having 2 jobs, and then we moved into the full-time real estate sales around the same time as well. And there's going to be a lot of questions about, is this the right time? Is this the right time? All the way through any of those decisions. And I think what you really need to do is think about where the source of that question is coming from. Where is that fear-based? I think most of the time it is. And I think, there's always going to be a million reasons why you can tell yourself it's not the right time. But there are just as many reasons to see that it is the right time. If you're thinking about being a real estate agent, there's a lot of factors that might make you think that this is the wrong time to get in the market. So we are not as hot as we were mid-pandemic, when interest rates were less than 3%, where we don't have as much activity that is happening. Houses aren't flying off the market quite like they were. And there was a NAR lawsuit settlement. But I would argue that it's a better time now than it was in 2021 in the long term, because you can start a business in this slightly different way of doing it. In light of that lawsuit, we're doing things a little bit differently. People are adjusting a little bit, but you're going to start there. You're not going to have the knowledge of the past to be like, it's not like it used to be or whatever. And then also you are going to be starting to build a business that's sustainable and not just kind of surviving from the moment you start. It was easy to get a lot of business in the peak of the pandemic, and a lot of people did, and then they might be struggling now to kind of sustain the life they created because it was not a sustainable thing. So there's a lot of ways to look at things, and I think it's good to understand yourself whenever you're looking through the growth opportunities that you have, to understand that question. I'm not saying that it's always the right time to do something. I'm not saying always be optimistic and jump right in. I'm saying understand why you're asking that question. Understand yourself well enough to know if that you are really just scared, and then figure out if that's a rational fear or not. And what I often tell people, home buyers, if they're looking at buying a house, if they're asking if it's the right time, it often boils down to, how long do you plan to own the house? If you plan to own the house, indefinitely, then there's no time like now. If you're going to own the house in 30 years, for 30 years, you should buy it sooner than later, because 30 years at time is going to heal any kind of corrections that may happen. I don't see the forecast for corrections coming at this moment. We still have an undersupply, a higher demand than there is supply. And so that means the prices should continue to rise. But nobody has a crystal ball. So all that to say is they're kind of like trees. Buying a house is kind of like planting a tree. The best time was 10 years ago. And, time in the market is where, lots of appreciation and debt payoff happens. And so that's one of the examples of how you can think through, is it a good time to get in this business? Is it a good time to buy a house? That's one of the rational ways you can check yourself, because you can hear a lot of news stories. You can hear a lot of other things that will tell you it's not the right time. But check yourself, talk to some people that are experienced, talk to an agent. If you're looking to buy, talk to an agent that has your best interest in mind. Try to find one that's not just about sales. Cause if you talk to me, we're going to talk through kind of the realistic picture of the market right now. Again, like I just said, if you're thinking you need to sell in a year, it's hard to know what's going to happen. If you're thinking you need to sell in 3 years, it's a little bit less hard, but still, it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. If you're thinking you're going to need to sell in 15 years, you're probably in the clear. It's probably a good time to buy. Okay. All that said, we have a great guest today, Kim. We're just going to call her Kimmy G because her last name's hard. She says it perfectly at the end. She said I said it right here at the beginning, so hopefully that is correct. I'm doubting myself, but Kimmy G is out of the Westchester County area in New York, outside of the city, and she is a successful agent, has been doing it for a long time, and she's going to share her wisdom with you. So without further ado, Kimmy G. Welcome back to the REI Agent. I am so focused on getting your name correct that I almost screwed up the intro all the way through. So Kim Giarraputo.
Excellent.
Is that right?
That's perfect.
Ah, yes. We were joking right before we got on here that we would be just practicing our names when we hit record. So that's basically what happened. Kim, thanks so much for joining us here. You are coming out of Westchester, New York, which is outside of the city, right? You want to tell us a little bit about that area?
Yeah, Westchester County is, I feel, is such a very centrally located area, especially for people who want to move here. It's still very close to the city for people who want to commute or move out of the city and know that the commute is pretty fantastic. You're looking like, dependent upon what part of Lower Westchester, 35 to 40-minute commute, very close to New Jersey, very close to Long Island. So even if you have family dispersed in the tri-state area, it's still a great centrally located place. We're near the water. It's very, very nice.
Yeah, it sounds pretty perfect. So I would imagine there's a lot of like overflow from New York City in there. Like I would imagine there's some pretty big estates that are around. Is that correct?
There is. There's a particular area in Westchester County. Again, we're talking Lower Westchester County. So there's Larchmont, Rye, Scarsdale. A lot of those sections, Larchmont's on the water, Rye's on the water. When I say on the water, it's the Sound. So yes, there's some pretty fantastic, beautiful homes around here for sure.
Yeah. What would be some of those sales prices just to get people excited?
That would be nice. Yeah. Well, there's one particular area in Larchmont called the Manor, and it definitely resides separately, and you enter in, from a particular avenue. And I mean, I would say, least expensive, maybe 3 million, and it, can go up to 7, 8, 9, really dependent upon the location and the size, of course.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah,
I don't live in one of those. I aspire to.
Sure. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. I mean, I think I read a little bit about that area, and it sounds like the best of both worlds. You can get some nice nature, some of the beauty of New York State, as well as the proximity to everything. So that sounds like a really nice area.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the walkability is fantastic. I mean, Larchmont's pretty small, so you can, walk to town, walk to the train, and we've got great restaurants, great little stores. And I pride myself in not just locking myself into one particular area. Even though I live in Larchmont, I pretty much will work wherever a client wants to see a house.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, do you ever get people wanting to sell a house in New York City to move into the county? Does that ever happen?
Not a lot of New York City or Brooklyn. People will call me and say, I need help selling my New York City home. It's more like, help me find my home in Westchester County or Fairfield County, Connecticut first. Even though Compass is fantastic with their referral business. So we refer pretty much all around the world. I've done a few California deals, a few Florida deals, a few New Jersey deals. Haven't done really anything too much in Manhattan just yet, but it does happen. It sure does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get a referral on that one insane penthouse if it's still for sale, overlooking Central Park. I forget how many millions that one was, but
I'm gonna look that one up.
Anyway, Kim, tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate sales in general.
Well, I got into sales very, very early on in my life. My first job was selling pretzels at a oh my goodness, at a racehorse stand. So it was, it was a little crazy. I mean, I just was like, wow, I'm selling pretzels. I'm upselling, two pretzels for the price of one. Like it was crazy. So I always knew I had, that part in me. And then I went right into sales after high school, and I sold dental supplies and technology to dentists for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And when I realized that that was something I wanted to eventually, go away from, I incorporated real estate at the same time I was doing my full-time career, because I understood that, real estate does take some time to get up and going, and you've got to work on your sphere. And it's not something that, if everybody wants to get their license and sell that $1 million home, it doesn't happen that quickly. It's a lot of investment, a lot of time. So I'm glad I did exactly what I planned on doing. So I transitioned very nicely after, working those two full-time careers for 2 straight years. And then in 2016, I officially went full-time with real estate, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
Kim, we have a very similar timeline. I think that's about the same for me. I think I started 2014 and worked 2 jobs. I mean, that's always a thing people just, talk about or think about is like, do you burn the fleet? Do you just go ahead and jump full in and make it sink or swim? I mean, I know I agree with you personally. I think that was a really good decision for me. I was very, very dedicated to my real estate sales business because I knew I wanted to take that to the next level and make that my full-time thing. But what are your thoughts of that with people in general? Like, what's your advice you give people if they're thinking about whether to burn the fleet or to, keep both jobs until they can see the success in the sales business?
Yeah, I mean, it actually depends what they're doing right now, honestly. And, if they have a full-time career, I tell them, take the test at night. Keep your full-time career, focus on that. And, once you've passed the actual exam, then you have to take the New York State test or whatever state you're in. And then at that point, if there's time that they can meet, or they want to shadow me or follow me, I welcome them to, see what it's really like behind the scenes. And it's not all glamour, right? It's not, I'm not opening up a door to a $4 million home all the time, right? So, you go into these homes that you're a little nervous, the ceiling might collapse, and, the next day, you're in a gorgeous home. But they have to understand that it takes time, right? You're not just, this is not HGTV. We're not showing our clients 3 homes and then they have to make a decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That would be nice, but we don't, I don't put that kind of pressure. But I welcome whoever wants to take the test, for sure, go for it. But you need a mentor. I tell them they need to find somebody to mentor them, and to just understand and start preparing their, I'm sorry, I don't know why this is dinging in on my laptop. I start preparing them from a marketing standpoint. So get all your friends, get all your family together, get their cell phone numbers, get their emails. And once you're ready to choose a brokerage that you want to work for, at least you have all that information to send out your first announcement that you have, your license, and you're ready, to help them out whenever they want. But, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I would say probably by my 2nd year, just when I decided to give up my full-time career, is when, it was starting to work. It was starting to function pretty nicely. The problem is, right, if you are used to a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever, every week, once a month, how do you get a paycheck weekly, monthly in real estate? You don't get a paycheck weekly, but you try and have a deal in contract at least once a month, because that will allow your flow of income to come in. But there's a lot of agents I know that after the year, they went back to their full-time career.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the risk, is if you jump into early and you can't sustain, you're going to be feeling forced financially to, go get another job. So I think it's definitely a mixed bag. Everybody's situation is different. And there's also different ways of doing real estate, right? I mean, like, so you could join a team that has, a million inbound leads coming in that they're paying for, and you can be basically, answering the phones 24/7. There's just a different way of doing business. So if you're looking to be more, which it sounds like you are, like relationship oriented, kind of going with your sphere, doing a really good job, keeping in touch with the people that well, and always trying to grow that, and getting referral business from them, et cetera. That does take a little bit more time, but it's also a very different feeling business than, talking to somebody cold is a lot different than talking to somebody warm that, wants to work with you, and you don't feel like you're spamming somebody. You don't feel like you're bothering them. You're not getting hung up on.
Absolutely.
It's very different.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And the longer you're in the business, then you start getting repeat business. So maybe those particular clients are ready to sell now, or they're referring you to their family. I mean, that's really what it's all about, right? I mean, you want to make it a very smooth, awesome experience, make it happy, and make it, fun. There's, this is an exciting part in everyone's life, looking for a home, right? It gets a little wonky sometimes when you get the accepted offer, and then you have inspection and you're nervous, and then you go to contract, and after contract, then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. But, I look at it where, almost every 99.9% of my deals, they're happy ending, right? It's just you at the end of the sale, you're at the closing table. It's a happy moment. And, you want to reward them, you give them a gift, you take pictures. It's exciting. And then you have to learn how to stay in touch with them as well. Right.
Right.
I mean, here you spend, could be 2 months, 2 years with a client, and then all of a sudden they find their dream home and you don't see them anymore. So, that's like a breakup. That's sad for me. Yeah. And I try and stay in touch with them as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I remember, when at the kind of the height of the market with COVID and having the interest rates being so low and money being pumped into the system, et cetera, I would imagine it was the height of the market for you as well. They I'd be showing buyer clients stuff like all the time. As soon as something came up, let's go, and we'd be like really close. And then eventually, often some people would decide to waive home inspections, decide to kind of waive as much as they could, after losing out a bunch of times to other offers that did. Not that I ever, start off saying you have to do this. I'm not pushing anybody to do that, but that's just kind of the reality of that market at the time. And, so we would like go under contract, and all of a sudden it's just like, well, we're kind of waiting around until closing. Like, we were seeing each other all the time. It's like, where'd you go?
Yeah. It's so true, right? It just gets cut off. But, and you make a really good point, because they tell us also, it's just because you're in contract and you're not closing for 45 or 60 days, stay in touch with the client.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm going on an appraisal today for a property we're in contract with. And I let them know, I'll be at the house this afternoon. Let me know if there's anything you want me to do, any pictures you want me to take, you want me to video, you guys, or anything. It's important to just, and then once the appraisal's over, the appraisal's been completed, we should hear from the bank in 3 days. Like, stay and even put a note in your calendar after closing a month later. How's everything going? Totally. And then like I do a monthly email. So, I try and stay in touch with them, via, it's just a newsletter. It just has like lots of little good stuff about what's happening in the month in that particular area. I try and find out what their Instagram is, their Facebook is, so we can follow each other. So, it's important to stay top of mind and remember who's Kim Giarraputo, because it's hard. If you ask most buyers or sellers, what's your agent's name? They may not be able to answer it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And then that's, a good example. I heard somebody once wonder if, the whole lawsuit, that kind of stuff stemmed a little bit out of people just being really frustrated with the way they were being treated in this industry. And if you are, you click on something because you're curious on the internet, and then all of a sudden you're getting called 16 times by somebody that won't leave you alone, at all hours of the day, you're getting text messages, you're getting everything, you're just getting blasted by this person that you didn't really even you didn't really invite that into your world, and all of a sudden it's happening to you. I think it leaves you a bad taste. And what we're talking about here is very different. I mean, we're talking about basically being really good friends with the people that you know. And, you're trying to give them value. You're trying to be a good person to them, and that they will then want to do business with you. They want to call you, as opposed to just like kind of beating down the door until, until
it's true. It's true. I think what happened early on, like before I decided to go full time for 2 years, in the first year, no disrespect to like anybody in this business, but you really need to, think twice about how you speak and how you treat people and how you answer your phone. And if you're selling a property, that phone needs to constantly be on your side, and the seller needs to know that you're always there representing them properly. And when I would, speak to some new buyers, I never thought that they had a terrible experience with real estate prior. So that was kind of like my in for the first 2 years. And I'm like, okay, listen, like I promise you, if you've had a negative experience with real estate, I'm going to turn that around for you. You will not feel that with me. I'll make a mistake. I may mess up. I may forget to return your text, but I promise you, I will tell you every step of the way exactly what needs to happen. And I'll be there for you. I'll tell you when to walk away from a property. I've been on so many inspections and doing this for so long. I could tell the difference between an age of a hot water heater and, a furnace. And I can pretty much pick out asbestos, and, I can tell mold from just a water damage. And I mean, pretty good in pointing stuff out because I've been on lots of inspections. Yeah. So that, that adds value. I'm not just sitting on the couch while the inspection's going on. I'm walking around with the inspector. So all that, and I tell my clients, I'm taking notes for you. You just listen, and no pressure that you have to remember everything, even though they're getting a full report in 24 to 48 hours. Right. I'm just, pointing out the obvious. That's all.
Yeah, totally. I agree. It's definitely, I think that's one of the really key things a new agent could do. And if they don't have the business to like, go to the home inspections for their own business, they should talk to other agents in their firm and see if they can attend other people's home inspections, even if the other agent's there as well. Like, can I just tag her along? Because I mean, that's a really good education. And I know we're not supposed to be inspectors or anything when we're showing homes, but you can kind of help educate your clients as you go through, and kind of try to ideally avoid some headaches and some heartbreak down the line if there's something very obvious that is a problem.
Absolutely. I mean, you're just adding value, like you said, I'm not professing to be an inspector, but I'm just pointing out some things that I'm aware of from my last, 12 years of being on a lot of inspections. And, at the end of the day, it's the inspector who's going to tell you this, that will be accurate or not.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the other thing I preach as well as the home and the investing side of things. Once you get into some of those areas as well, you get an even further level of knowledge of a house. Like you talk more about, what it would look like to renovate the house, or kind of rough estimates of costs of things. And, you can kind of take some of that knowledge as well and help apply, and also have contractors to kind of help move that along.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not an investor. I don't flip. I do think that is such a great idea. And I do feel like that's something I would love to be involved in eventually. I'm starting to get more investor and flippers in my portfolio. So whenever I see that rundown type home, I give them a call, and, I want to be part of the process. And I've said that to one of my investors. I said, listen, I'll be here ripping up the rug with you. Like, I want to see exactly how this works. And I want to be able to understand, like I could tell you chair rail from, crown molding. I know that, but I want to see it all come together. That stuff really, really excites me. I can't wait to be part of that process.
Yeah. And just to witness a house go from being like, there's this like, I don't know, sinking feeling, like until the house gets painted. It's just like it's ugly. It's just like, when is this going to be better? And then it gets painted, and it's like, wow. And I mean, you get that a little bit too when you're getting a house ready for the market, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's the hard part too, because we need to be respectful to our clients who are selling their home. And if that purple wall is really going to be a distraction, but they love it. You have to tread lightly, or maybe bring in, a designer to really, tell them what they need to do. Sometimes that's, it really depends. It depends on the client. It depends on the house. It depends on the area. So you got to know who you're working with.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we talked a little bit off air about teams a little bit. Can you tell me about your approach with teams and what that has looked like for you?
Sure. And I keep referring back to my previous career because I think that really set me, for my future. And I had run a tri-state area of teams to sell technology to dentists. So I had the trainer, I had the hardware installer. So, I kind of ran the whole show. I had like 15 people working with me. That was really easy for me when I came over to Compass, because they were very team generated. And I said, that's something I would like to do. So I immediately had two agents working with me. And then I brought on another one, and she is two young boys, so it was hard for her to do both. So she's like, I'll be back, but I'm just not ready right now to commit, because it is a lot of work. So I'm currently, running the business, just me on my own, 24/7. I'm full-time. I love what I do, but I am absolutely looking for agents to come join me and support me. I'd like to, I've always wanted that to be my next approach. And it's it's hard to just bring on a new agent because you're not how sure they're committed. I don't have 100 leads to give them, but I can teach them how to grow the business, and I could be their mentor, and whatever they decide, they decide. But I definitely, am looking to have the team approach for sure.
Sure. And when you talk about the team, are you looking to fill like positions per se, or just kind of have somebody that you like you talked about, mentor to be just kind of a general agent as well?
Yeah, just a general agent, somebody who wants to do exactly what I do and be part of the team. I'm not looking for an admin or an assistant or anything like that. Not right now anyway. But I think just bringing up, whether the agent just got their license or they've been, they haven't been doing it for a few years and they've had their license and they want to get back into it. I have no problem teaching. I love teaching. I love sharing about the business and some of the things that I do, what helps me and makes me successful. But, I personally don't think I can get to that next level of success without having another team member, because I'm really doing it all. I mean, I'm showing $100,000 co-ops. I'm doing $2,000 rentals and $2 million homes. Right. So I'm all over the place, and I would love to pass that information or pass that opportunity on for sure.
Yeah, it's true. You can really, boil down to what you want to, get more focused on, and have somebody help you with the rest. And that's a win-win because they can get that business. I think there's also just an element of having, you probably, if you're teaching the right practices, you're probably more likely to do the right practices as well. And there's that energy, and like we can all kind of be there together to try to like keep us accountable to continue with all that. I think that's a huge piece of it as well.
That's a big piece. I mean, you mentioned the class action lawsuit, and that obviously did not happen in the state of New York. But I could promise you that would have never happened with any one of my clients ever. They will know exactly where every dime is going to, what they signed up for. It's called disclosure. I mean, that's what our license is all about, right? We have a fiduciary duty, and you could lose that license very quickly. It's just as important as a driver's license. It could be taken away.
Yeah, we've had the buyer brokerage agreement, I think, since 2012. I forget exactly when that came in.
What state are you in?
Virginia. So yeah, I don't think that would have happened here either. But
also in a good way too. It weeds out, any agents that felt, difficult in having to present that or promote that, or, it's not, it's hard to say. Like, there's so many things I want to say, and we're really trying.
Sure. Yeah.
But you have to do the right thing. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
I think it's an opportunity to prove to prove how professional you are and to stand behind how professional you are and how professional the industry is. Like, you would never expect to go to an attorney and be like, hey, look, I want to get a lease agreement drafted. I'm going to talk to 6 different attorneys, and whichever lease is drafted to my liking the best, I'm going to pay them. Right? That it would never happen.
So true. Absolutely. That's perfect.
So yeah, I think it's an opportunity to really iron out why you are a professional and what you do for people and why you're worth your income.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah. Perfectly said.
Thanks.
Okay. So off record, no, when we were speaking off mic, we were also trying to figure out the pronunciation of your first name, Mattias.
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 We waited too long. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get it. I swear I am.
I just answered anything close other than curse words. I try not to answer those anymore.
That's right.
Know my worth.
Mattias.
Yeah. Yeah, Kim. So that's, what would you say would be other good advice for somebody getting started in the business if they are looking to, do a really good job, get more business? What's something they could really do to help them out?
Well, if they're thinking of getting their license, go for it. Don't wait. That's my biggest regret. I feel like I waited too late, but I've done phenomenal in the last 14 years, so I can't look back, and I'm happy about that. If they are struggling currently right now and they have their license and things aren't working, they really need to look at themselves and say, okay, well, what is it that I could be possibly saying wrong or doing wrong? Am I approachable? Am I listening? Do I have the systems in place? Do I have my clients into a contact management system? Am I staying in touch with them? The second I get a client, whether it be Zillow or a referral, they just become a phone number in my phone, right? So I immediately change that. I immediately put them in there as a contact. I put them under the title, what they are and where they came from. So if I forget their first name, I could look up buyer and what area they're looking in. In my phone, I put notes. I have a consultation with them, and I'll put in my phone notes in their contact the consultation. I mean, I don't have just one client. I have many, 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 and it's really hard to remember everybody. So, and get that mentor. I think that's really important. If an agent in your brokerage is way too busy to be a mentor, find somebody else, and just engulf yourself in it. Don't just be like, oh, I've got no calls. Well, they're not calling you. Right. I'm telling you that much. You've got to go for it. Get your name out there, visit businesses, send out postcards where you live for people who know you. I mean, it's constant touching, it's constant staying in touch. And it's, there's, I say this a lot, and I don't want to say this disrespectfully, but my father used to say, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. And when and this is how back long ago this goes, because I was younger, and I was like, I think that's a compliment, right? And my father's telling me I can sell anything. And I don't want to sell ice to an Eskimo because that's the wrong thing. So as much as I loved what he said to me, I'm honest and I'm real. Eskimos don't need ice. They don't need ice. I'm not selling them something they don't need. And that's exactly how my approach is with everything else. If someone wants to look, oh my God, they want to look at a $2 million home, this is great. I'm not forcing it on them. Like it has to work. It has to feel right. And, a lot of times clients feel bad that, oh, I'm wasting your weekend, or this is the 10th time I've taken you out. That's okay. That's my job. That's what I do. This is not, again, HGTV, taking you out 3 times and you have to make a decision, but it helps you get to know the client as well. So the more time you spend with them, the more you understand that they don't like an open concept. They prefer rugs in the bedroom. So you have to give it time, and you have to work really, really, really hard for no paycheck for almost 2 years. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add, if you are looking for that mentor as well, I think trying to be of service to them, trying to help them in any way you can is another great thing you can do. So, if that's holding open houses for them, if they don't have that normally, like that's a pretty good opportunity to find new buyers that way, or, running flyers or whatever you can do for them to kind of take weight off their shoulders will help them want to help you as well, I think. So it's another great way to to kind of get your foot in the door, get some experience, and then, they might refer you business as well as a thank you. You might be their top of mind if they have somebody that's coming to their house, their listing that wants to see it. They might just give that to you if they're too busy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's okay to be a little forthcoming too. I have an architect that is in our area here, and I'll just text him every so often that home that I feel, needs some love. And I'm like, come on, purchase it. Let's do this together, and I'll send those homes to my flippers and my investors. And, hopefully in return, if that works and they purchase it, then I'll list it for them. So that's, that didn't come overnight either,
Yeah, that's a great point. What about the timing? Everybody, I think, always thinks the timing's bad, but what about getting into the market now if you are thinking about getting a real estate license?
I think there's no time like today to get your license. It doesn't matter what the market is. It doesn't matter whether it's up or down. Get your license. There are a lot of people that got their license during COVID just because they wanted to make a bunch of money. That's the wrong way for getting into it. I'm sorry. If you want to get into it, you get into it for the right reasons, regardless of the market. I mean, I personally feel the best time to get into is when it's quiet. And that's usually around holiday time, like October, November, December. This way you can focus on, getting your license, understanding it, we have more time to be a mentor, and then the business picks up again, usually around January or February. But, I have, two 20-year-old something kids. And I've been telling them for 3 years, get your real estate license, get your real estate license. And hopefully one of them will listen to me eventually. But that's just my regret, is not doing it sooner. Get it and get into the business as soon as you can.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. So we got our license about the same time, and it was slower then. It was, it was a pretty balanced market, maybe more of a buyer's market. And we're coming out of, the bubble burst, and it wasn't the same. I mean, I think it's easier now to get, houses under contract, et cetera, because people have to move more quickly. Back then there was just, people would see multiple houses and kind of not make a decision quickly, et cetera. And, again, I'm not pushing anybody to do anything, but it's just a different feel, and you kind of have to adapt to whatever the market it is. But yeah, it gave me the ability to grow my business organically. And, when things did pick up, I was already pretty established. And I feel bad for people who got into it in like 21, and now their business is just gone because they didn't have to do anything to like get it before. And now it's like, wait, what? And, people will make their lifestyle higher when times are good. And all of a sudden they're not selling as much. And they're like, wait a minute, I can't sustain this kind of business. And that's a recipe for getting out of the business. And that's like one of the reasons that, they say, I think 87% of agents get out of the business within 5 years.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And then I think there's another high percentage where I think 80% of the licensed agents have done 1 or 2 deals, in a year, and it's probably their own house.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But, that's okay, because we need that. Like we don't need those kind of agents, to give us a bad reputation, right? I mean, the ones who are still standing here 14 years later, 20 years later, 25 years later are the ones that, know what they're doing. And that's what we need to do. We need to change the mindset of the population for real estate agents. I did an open house yesterday for an agent, was not my listing. I previewed the house before I did the open house. I did a lot of stuff that, you're supposed to do, but there was no signs up yet around the home, like closet or don't open this door. So those signs went up after I had previewed the home. And I knew the back door to the porch was not accessible due to the footing on the floor was a little dangerous. So one client just happened to walk through and goes, "Why can't I open that door?" Very rudely. And I said, because I'm standing at the front door, and I just asked her, I said, "What door?" And her response to me was, "Well, you're the agent, you should know." And I'm like, Okay, well, first of all, I don't know what door you're pointing to.
Right.
I'm at the front door, you're pointing to the living room. I don't know what door you're asking. So I said, let me leave the front door quickly because there were a lot of guests coming in. And I quickly walked with her. I said, okay, that door. I said, well, it's wrong with the footing. There's something, it's dangerous. We can't go out there. And she said, okay. And that was it. So I just think she may have had a bad situation at some point, but don't think what happened to you originally is going to happen again. And I tell my clients, interview agents. I think if you ask agents, are you a full-time agent in your interview? I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I don't dabble in this just to do an open house one Saturday a month. I mean, this is my life. This is my career. This is what pays my kids' college and takes care of bills. So I'm a hustler, and that shows in my numbers. That shows in what I do. So, and I think there's a lot of sellers and buyers that don't maybe understand that if they come to you for the first time. So it's okay to explain the process as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just, it's hard to know exactly what questions to ask if you're a buyer at first, but what you just mentioned definitely is a good one. I think getting a feel for how they're going to operate, like walk me through the process of buying a house and how do we see houses, like all that kind of stuff. Cause I've read, I'm sure you've read these books too, but I've read books that will literally say, okay, when a buyer comes in for a buyer consultation meeting, you're going to get all the listings that meet their criteria. And then you're going to narrow it down to 3. And then you're going to ask them if they're ready to buy one of those 3 that day.
HGTV.
and maybe in markets past, like when there was inventory, that maybe have made more sense. But do you want to work with somebody that's going to pressure you like that? And so getting a feel for the processes that they do is, a great idea to interview different agents and,
Agree. We do a really nice job with that. We have Compass provides a buyer presentation. So we kind of critique it and personalize it based on the agent. So I'll put some of my testimonials in there. I'll have my bio in there. And then it talks about the process, right? It talks about buyer consultations, number 1, pre-approval, set them up on a portal. So if they want to live in X, Y, and Z, I put them right into the system. So it's like bringing the multiple listing system to them. Yeah. And I'm kind of out of it at that point. So it's going to show them coming soons. It will show them active. But the good thing about it, even if they're not ready, they get to see how the market is. So if they see a home come to market and a week later it goes to pending, they know they need to act fast, right? Yeah, so right. It's also updating them when it gets sold, for what price. So the portal is something extremely important that I set my clients up with immediately. And then I tell them, give me at least a day or two's notice if you want to go out and look at a property, and just we'll have fun. That's all. And in that booklet, it's all about the process. So what happens when I put an offer in? What's next? What's inspection? So if they forget everything I mentioned in the buyer consult, it's all in my little presentation book, and they like it.
No, that's great. Yeah. And then especially, we're getting, obviously the buyer brokerage agreement signed as soon as possible now. So having that kind of stuff really helps elevate your professionalism. And this is all the things that go into what I do. And so this is, again, why I'm worth my income.
Yeah. Absolutely. We even have a top 50 things that real estate agents do. That buyer agents do. It's pretty funny. It's like, whoa, we really do a lot. And we don't tell our clients half the stuff we do either. We just handle it.
Forget. If you're not intentional about looking into it. I mean, you kind of forget. Yeah. Kim, we're talking about resources here. I'm curious if you have a favorite book that you could recommend people to read, if it's real estate related or maybe just in general.
So I was never a big reader, ever in my life. I was just like, and I never had time for it. Yeah. I'd say the last 10 years, it's definitely something I have made a change, and I'm really trying to read more. But it has to interest me. It has to be, relatable. And this could be part of real estate or not. But everybody probably knows the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And if you haven't, I suggest you get it, because you will You and your wife will text me and say, thank you so much.
I am remembering this one now. I think it's been mentioned. I haven't read it, but it's been mentioned, I believe.
It's a great read, and I think it helps for everything, your personal life, your professional life. And, it's basically just like just let it go. Just let it go. It really doesn't matter if, your buyer has called you 100 times today. Let them, so you can use it in so many different formats, and again, with business and personal life, but I love it so much. I gave it to my daughter. When she finishes it, I told her I want it back so I can read it again. That's how much I love it.
Okay.
And then this time I'm going to highlight the heck out of the book because it's fantastic. It really, really, really is. It's a great read, and I read it fast. Normally I'll read a book and I'll have time. I'll put it down. I'll go back to it a week later, forgot what I wrote, have to start all over again.
Right.
Nope. This one I made a point every single day because I didn't want to put it down.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Thanks so much for that recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kim, if people are interested in buying in your area or wanting to follow you anywhere, do you have social media? Where can people find you?
Now, if I said, no, I don't have social media, what would you say?
Maybe you should start.
Imagine a real estate agent that has no social media. Nah, you can't find me. Yes, Kim Giarraputo for Instagram. So KimGiarraputo. I just created a new fantastic website. So if you go to kimgiarraputo.com, you can check out my transactions and my testimonials there, kimgiarraputo.com. Yeah, and that's it. And hopefully you'll keep reading and seeing me on this podcast.
Yeah, perfect. We'll have those linked below, so they'll be able to find it.
Great.
Kim,
Great.
Thanks so much for being on the REI Agent.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope your son gets better.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.